Hi, George Freestone, and we're back with our baseball journey, telling the story of all the visits that my wife Carol and I made to each of the then current Major League ballparks, all 30 of those, and several obsolete. And today we are in Los Angeles, and I thought I'd start with this iconic statue outside Chavez Ravine, LA Dodgers Stadium, and it's showing one of the iconic Dodger players of all time, Jackie Robinson, sliding into a particular base. Quite the baseball player, and he had to play under very unfortunate and difficult terms. At any rate, I thought I'd read to you by way of introduction the inscriptions on both sides of this statue out in front of the ballpark. On this side, behind him as he's sliding, you can read, I'm not concerned with your liking or disliking me. All I ask is that you respect me as a human being. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that Jackie was shown the respect that he was due when he broke into the major leagues under very difficult circumstances in 1947. Let's take a look at the inscription on the other side of the statue, the move me around. And this says, there's not an American in this country free until every one of us is free. Okay, now what I normally do in these introductions is talk a little bit about my garb. And today's game is between the Dodgers, and you can see in my cap, although the Dodgers are blue and white, maybe a little bit of yellow as well. You can see my ball cap is alternate colors for them, kind of black and orange. So this is an alternate ball cap for the LA Dodgers, and many of you will recall my father was quite the Brooklyn Dodgers fan. Now, I'm starting with my windbreaker that I purchased for the Giants, who are going to be the Dodgers' opponent in the game that we attended. And I wear this windbreaker when I'm going out for my daily walks when it's chilly. And now we're going to take a slight break as I expose the t-shirt that I have on underneath. All right, I'm back and I have a San Francisco Giants t-shirt on. And there's a couple of things I want to point out about this t-shirt. First of all, the number 415 is a particular section at Oracle Park. It's out in center field. It's 415 feet away from home plate. And that's where the 415 comes from, that you can see right underneath the eyes of this maybe Day of the Dead or whatever um, rendition of an individual under the San Francisco Giants ball cap. The other thing that I'll point out is the Gigantes. Where that comes from is celebrating the Latino heritage of the Giants, I imagine both from New York and San Francisco, as well as celebrating the Latino heritage and importance of that community to the city of San Francisco. Now we're going to move on and actually get into the slide. And so I'm going to move me to the center of the screen and let me share my screen so that I can pull up the slide that we're going to talk from. Here is our visit to Dodger Stadium. Okay, here we are telling the story of our visit to Chavez Ravine. And here is a particularly attractive picture of the ballpark. And I can remember on some of my prior visits to Los Angeles, before attending a game there, just running around the ballpark to kind of get the lay of the land. And here is that statue that I introduced to as we talked about Jackie Robinson on the introduction as well. I'm going to start now by winding down through the various bullets on the right-hand side of the slide that you have before you. If you'll recall, this was part of our longest road trip to date. We actually eclipsed that in our final road trip, but we drove after flying into San Francisco and seeing a game in Oakland. We drove down the coast from Oakland into Los Angeles, then from Los Angeles to San Diego, from San Diego to Phoenix, and from Phoenix to Denver, where we saw the Rockies and then flew home. So we ended up seeing 6 different ball games on this trip. That was the record for us as well. But in just coming south from San Francisco, Oakland to Los Angeles, we came through the Tejon Pass, and you can see here the elevation of that particular pass. And interestingly, when I was looking at some material about the Tejon Pass, weather reports will come out for the various elevations. And although you're not really that far from Los Angeles, snow finds its way into those mountains, and you have to be a little bit concerned for that as you're driving on I-5 coming into Los Angeles, headed south that particular way. Now, one of my first visits to Los Angeles, I had the pleasure of staying at the Westin Bonaventure. Carol and I did not stay there when we went to the Dodgers game, but the reason I bring it up is, first of all, the very unique architecture, the several cylinders that you can see of the Western Bonaventure. And during my initial visit here, I can remember staying there while Johnny Depp and others were filming the movie Nick of Time. Now let's talk just briefly about the game. Game was not much of a hitter's game. It was a strong pitcher's game, and you can see the box score again if you go here. The Dodgers came into the game with a far better record. It was 92 and 52. And the Giants, however, won the game. And again, you can see the details for the game here. So the underdog Giants won. And then I've got a trivia question for you here. They don't get a whole lot of inclement weather in Los Angeles, which is part of the reason why it's such a attractive place to actually want to live. There are several disadvantages as well, but the trivia question I have is, when was the last rain out in Los Angeles? And according to my notes, the answer is April 17th of 2000. So quite some time ago was the last rain out in Los Angeles. Okay, this ballpark, Chavez Ravine, was built shortly after the Brooklyn Dodgers moved out to Los Angeles. And in order to do so, they had to relocate and tear down communities in the Chavez Ravine neighborhood, hence the name. But this ballpark has the distinction of the current largest capacity of all of the major league ballparks. And not surprisingly, for the game that we saw, which was in September of 2019, there were 54,000 people at that particular game. And as the note says, there were some kids areas. Carol had gone walking around the ballpark, and um, you can see a picture she took here of some of the areas that the kids could play at during the game as well if they weren't as focused on the game itself. I have several pictures from the game here, and here in this one, you can really see how large a crowd there was at Dodger Stadium. And as the note indicated, they had many colorful fans. Well, here you can see one very particularly colorful fan with her pink hair and her tights. The tights colors don't come through quite so much. And as we were walking through the Los Angeles communities close to the hotel that we were staying in, you can see this particularly colorful costume as well. And I asked that woman if she would be okay with me taking the picture, and reluctantly she said she was. So at any rate, we had colorful fans in the ballpark and colorful people outside the ballpark too. Now, we walked around the internal parts of Chavez Ravine, as well as outside the park before we got into the stadium. Vin Scully, longtime radio announcer and television announcer for the Dodgers, was commemorated and celebrated for his longtime contribution to Dodger history. And here indeed is a jersey from him. I have shots of the Chavez Ravine scoreboard, which was very active during the game. Again, a bobblehead statue outside with a Brooklyn ball cap on, and I chose to wear my LA rather than my Brooklyn ball cap today. Carol and I took a selfie in front of the Bleed Blue sign there at the game. And I think that may be just about all of the pictures from the game, with the exception being that there is no mascot for the Dodgers, like Mr. Met or the Philly Fanatic. There is no mascot. However, they do have a few bobblehead characters, and here is Carol with one of them as we are walking around inside Chavez Ravine. Okay, I'm going to shift gears now, talk a little bit about some of the other pictures that you see on this very crowded slide. I'm going to start by saying we stayed at the Hilton Checkers, and here is the facade for that particular hotel. It was very nice. It was well located, very close to the attractions in downtown Los Angeles. Um, and I have a picture here someplace, yeah, right here, right next to it. We were in the elevator and it had mirrors throughout, and here you can see the cascading images of Carol in the elevator. That's the photo fun in the Hilton Checkers. That's that particular picture. Now, we went to several museums as well in LA while we were there. We went to the Broad, and one of the things we saw was this fellow's light room. And I have two pictures of that. Special tickets were required, and you could actually stand inside this image, which had both many lights and mirrors, And here you can see, if you look carefully, there's myself and Carol. Same thing with a negative of that right here, just focusing on the people, but very impressive display that was available during our 2019 visit. We also had the pleasure of returning to the Getty Museum, and there's a few facilities for the Getty in Los Angeles. We went to the Getty right off the 405. That is the newest facility. It's a beautiful facility, and you can see here. This is from the backside of the Getty right there. Here's another attractive picture of the front side of the Getty. This is the very attractive Broad Museum that I just talked briefly about. And while we were visiting the Getty Museum and some of the artwork there, we had a chance for me to catch up with my Informs Roundtable UCLA colleague. And here you can see the two of us taking a break from lunch to celebrate by capturing it in a picture. So we were at the Getty. This Michael Jackson image is from the Broad. Um, and I think that might be the Broad and the Getty Museum pictures that are on this busy slide. Oh, not all of them. One of the um, attractions of the Getty is the gardens that they have as well. And here is one of the more interesting flowers from those gardens. It's called an angel's trumpet. I forgot to mention that there was a camera exhibit, which was a bit of a draw too to the Getty Museum. And here you can see one of those cameras that was highlighted and a second, and I believe this one was a Leica as well. And one of the cameras in our fleet is also a Leica. This is a picture of Carol and I from the deck of the Getty, and behind us, through the fog, or smog rather, is downtown Los Angeles. Okay, one of the more interesting bookstores that we stopped in was the last bookstore in LA. It is part of, this is actually inside the bookstore where they constructed a bit of a tunnel that you can walk through, interestingly, with constructed of just books from that bookstore. And you can see Carol's saving that in pictures. Union Station, again, a very interesting train station. Here's a colorized version of the part of the tower announcing Union Station. Grand Central Market is downtown, and here we had a chance to enjoy some food of the various cultures represented by Los Angeles. Walt Disney's Music Hall is here as well. This is the very interesting architecture for that particular home to the LA Orchestra. That's where they play, and that's their home base. Here is the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion, where we had a chance just to capture it as we were walking past. And here, if you see, to get up and down some of the tougher elevations within Los Angeles, they have some uh, trains that go up and down that serious incline, and that is called Angel's Flight. And one of my detective heroes is a fellow by the name of Harry Bosch. Okay, and Harry uh, is part of a story that Michael Connolly has written all about Angel's flight as well, and a murder that takes place on one of those cars. Two things to close out this episode with. First, I neglected to mention you can go here when you access the slides, and there is a link to the slides in the description to the YouTube playlist. But if you go to the slides and then get to the Los Angeles slide, you can click on this and you will see several hundred, of which this was a fraction. And the final thing I'll mention is we talked to you about the Mother Road, US Route 66. We ran into it where it starts in Chicago. We ran into it kind of midstream in St. Louis, and we've run into it now here at the very end in Santa Monica. This is where Route 66 ends. But we're not done with Route 66. If you stay tuned for some of the future episodes on this Western US road trip, we're going to run into it again as we go through Arizona and New Mexico. So I thank you very much for your attention. This is our 29th episode in a continuing series. Number 30 will take us to Anaheim, not too far away from Los Angeles, where we will see a game hosted by the Angels. Many thanks for your attention, and we'll see you soon.